All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Battle Tested podcast. Am I in focus? I should be in focus. I look in focus.
You are, but this is the new podcast. Hopefully you listen to the introductory episode. I can't say that word. I've got to stop leading myself into that.
Pilot.
We just did the pilot last time. This is the second episode, and I have a question for you that I'd like to revolve this around.
Can I start with a shameless plug first really quick?
Absolutely.
Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk about art, creativity, making your projects happen, but also I'm going to say this is also so we can remind people that, you know, we sell stuff, and the reason why we sell stuff is so we can do our stuff. So I just pulled these off. I called them, I harvested them.
Ooh.
Bones for the bone bands that we do, which are not listed on the site yet, which will be listed soon. But if you go to super-flags.com, and these are like very useful little cable ties or bracelets or whatever, you put them around stuff and then they hold it tight. So
They rock.
anyway, I just pulled that off. I pulled that off, and I'm gonna be harvesting these while you talk because they take a while to get off the plate. All right, so Ryan, you had a question.
Yeah, listen carefully because you're gonna have to think. So I'll do quite a bit of talking while you can prepare your answer. But I've been thinking a ton about creativity, and I want to know what has been inspiring you or inspiring creativity for you today, or this week, or this month, this new year. What's kind of your process, and how do you get inspired to create? So think about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about my answer to that, which kind of involves this whole battle tested thing. The reason we really wanted to do this was because we like to create things. And the reason the super flags were launched, and then the super lights were launched, and now the bones are launched, is because we've been doing this for a while, and we've run into problems. And these are do-it-yourself 3D printed solutions on how to make hard things easier. And one of the things that I love to do, and I am pretty sure you love to do, is just kind of like going into Home Depot and just looking around. And whenever I have issues that I need solutions to, that I don't know the solution, I love to just go to Home Depot and just look at the shelves and see what kind of projects come to me based off of the supplies that I can see and the solutions that I'm like, oh, that is perfect for this. And I've found that bleeding into my art life as well. I mean, I've got some mannequins behind me. I was at a store and they were selling their mannequins because they were going out of business. And I was like, I could use those. I don't know what for, but all of a sudden, like, I never would have thought of any art projects with mannequins before, but now all of a sudden I've found these mannequins and all of these ideas start running through my head that I'm like, oh, I could do a photo shoot with mannequins. I could do this. I could do this. And all of these new opportunities for creativity just kind of like flooded into my brain. So that's my question for you. Do you have any hints or some techniques or anything like that on how to get inspired and spark creativity?
Okay, so there's like 1,000 different answers and questions inside that question, which I love. And we're going to, I think, address those as we go along eventually, all of them over the years. But let me just focus and jump down into like one little micro question and answer would be like right now. Where am I getting inspiration right now? Because it has changed over the years. It's just, you know, my focus is what drives me, my desires, whatever. The reason why I'm doing things, the need to do other things because whatever I was doing wasn't fulfilling me before. So right now it's kind of a backlash, a reaction to being in the business, corporate, not corporate per se, but like getting paid to do art kind of thing. Whereas unless you're in that most ideal situation where you get paid to do what you love to do, when I mean love, I mean like someone's asking you for the idea and the creativity and all that stuff instead of just being a hired gun, which I love my job. I love being a DP. I cannot argue with that. I'm not going to complain about that for anybody's project, but it's just something special when it's your project, right? Whether it's a labor of love or someone's paying you for it. So for right now, most of my day-to-day expenditure of creativity is on other people's projects, trying to make sure their projects look good. How am I going to solve their problems? And that's very fulfilling in the fact that I like problem solving. That's why I like designing lights, designing flags. I like to problem solve. And to have something at the end of the day that I created that solved that problem is very fulfilling. But how do I get inspired about that? Well, you have to have problems, and going out to look for problems isn't always good for your health. But I think one more step into that, I think, is I found this book a couple years ago, which every time I read it, it blows my mind. And I would suggest everyone to go check it out. It's How to Get Ideas by, let's see, where's the info on it? How to Get Ideas.
And this would be a perfect time to mention a sponsor that does audiobooks.
I
If we
know,
had
right?
one.
Because I'm like a super gold Uber member. View details. Here we go. By Jack Foster. So Jack Foster, I have this book hard copy, I have it audio, and I have it Kindle because I refer to it constantly. And they talk about how to get ideas. And the coolest thing about it is, well, there's 1,000 things, but he always talks about there's no new ideas. There's just remixing old ones. So you go out and, like Ryan, you're saying, you go out and you look for things and you go on photo walks and stuff and you come up with these ideas. I love that it's like, okay, if you get out and experience more of the world, then you're going to have different ideas going through your head. One of the exercises he says is, and he talks about some of the most creative people on the planet. He went and interviewed them. And one of the guys, he would drive to work a different way every day.
I've been doing that like the last couple months.
So you don't just drive the same roads thinking, oh, that's the most efficient way to get there. That's not the point. The point is to expose your brain, your eyes, your hearing, your car, your feeling, whatever, to different experiences, so that as you go along, you're having different input, which then puts your brain in a different state of mind. I started listening to like different radio stations. So it's not always like the 90s music that I love. I'll turn on classical, which I've always liked classical, but I'll turn on sometimes like Spanish polka, and the kids are just like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know what they're saying, but you never know what's going to happen just as I'm doing things. So you have to really get out there and change what you're doing and turn your life into a mashup, because without that, you're never going to have new ideas. And that's just one little thing in this book. So I love this book.
That's huge, because like my main thing, and I think I even just did a YouTube video on that, if you want like my full in-depth thoughts on this topic, because this has been on my mind so much, especially with recent current events like 2020 particularly. I lost my job that I had kind of like on and off for 5 years, but after being unemployed for like a month, I realized like how much of a rut I had gotten into, that I had my set schedule. I was driving to work the same way every day. I was doing the same thing at work, and then I was driving home the same way every day. And there were so many times where I would just put my brain on autopilot, and that's so unsafe. But like you'd get home and you'd be like, I don't remember the drive home. Like what what just happened? You just zone out so completely. And that's why I love that hint, that tip is, if you shift things up, it forces you to be aware. And I think being aware is such a crucial thing in creating art and coming up with inspiration, because a lot of the most important and moving art or creativity out there is fueled by something relevant. And you're not going to know what's going on in the world or in your own personal life unless you're aware, unless you throw open the blinds and you start seeing things as they are, because then you're just going to get hit by inspiration left and right. And it's such a crazy experience to do that 180 of being so closed and so focused on one thing to all of a sudden just opening it up and seeing everything around you.
So that's your challenge for this week is to, if you're listening, get out there and do something different. Change your radio station up, drive a different way to work, use different words, pick a different word you can throw into your vocabulary, talk to somebody new at work or on the road or something like that, and just see what kind of new experiences happen. Because if you're looking to, if you're feeling like you're in a rut, you want to have some new ideas, and this could be for anything. It's not just about being creativity and using art. It's like any kind of inspiration, a problem at work or with your family or something like that. You got to have new experiences that'll lead to new ideas.
Yeah, I mean, even just wrapping it back to that initial idea of going to Home Depot and just walking down random aisles and being inspired and being like, oh, that could solve this problem. It's just putting yourself in a new place that you weren't quite thinking about before. And let us know if you try any of these things and something cool comes from it. Hit us up. Let us know. We'd love to hear. And if you have any other ideas of what we could try to get a little bit more inspiration or something that we can share in a future episode, we'd love to hear from you.
All right, thanks for listening. This was the Battle Tested Podcast. I'm Cameron, and
I'm Ryan.
And thanks for listening.
Bye.